Hi everyone, welcome to my channel at DVW Learn, where we master the skills of Adobe Creative Cloud and increase your creativity. Today's topic is going to be Creative Cloud Libraries, and we're going to learn how Creative Cloud Libraries help you be on brand, help you save hours of time, and have all the assets at the right time, at the right place, and help you increase your collaboration powers, even when you're working remotely or working from home, or you're collaborating with your peers across the countries. So let's get started. All right, so right now you can see I'm in Photoshop 2023, which is the latest version. And what we're going to do here, you can start with a fresh file, you can start with an existing file. Let's get started with a file that I already have in my downloads folder. In case you're curious, I downloaded this from Adobe Stock. It was one of the templates. I will make a full-fledged video on Adobe Stock and how Adobe Stock can help you become more productive as well. We'll go through that in next video. But in the interest of time, let's just open this file up and you will see there are a lot of things going on here. There are images, font, colors, text, a lot of things happening here, right? So what is the problem that we're trying to solve here? The problem we're trying to solve and help you master is that when you're working on your creative projects, chances are that you're working with your peers, with your teams, vendors, with your clients, customers, and you just need to collaborate with a lot of people. Even if it's one person, it's going to save you hours. So how do you use the power of Creative Cloud Libraries to do that? The second problem that we're solving here is basically being on brand, making sure that you're always being on brand, you're using the right fonts, right colors, right approved images, assets for that project, and never being off the brand. Because, let's just be honest, there are so many things that you need to take care of when you're working on projects like this. And there's always a mystery of what is the latest version of that asset that got approved that you're supposed to use. Is it the version 1.1, 1.2, 1.5, and God knows what. So these are the kind of things that we're solving here, and you'll see in no time how Creative Cloud Libraries can help you solve all these problems, right? So where do you find the libraries to begin with? Like any other panel, we have a dedicated panel for Creative Cloud libraries in all the Creative Cloud applications. So I'll click on the window menu and you'll see there's an option to click on libraries to be able to get access to your libraries panel. Now, on the right-hand side, we can see I have already activated my libraries panel and it's in front. And if you can't see it, you can, of course, go into Window and click on Libraries and you will be able to see it as well. But yours might not look like the way it looks like for me. Yours might be like completely blank if you haven't used it before, which is absolutely fine, because we're going to go through the process of how you can create a new library and basically how you can get started, right? So what I'm going to do, let me quickly get this out of the way so that I can show you more things happening on the right-hand side. Now, what you see here, you will see there is a button which says create new library. Of course, click on that, name your library anything that you want to. Now, how do you create your libraries? What should be the logic behind creating libraries? Should it be every one library, one project, one library, one client, one library per sub-project, or what's the right thing to do? And there's no right or wrong answer for this. It's absolutely on you of how you want to create your libraries and how do you want to bifurcate your libraries, because there's actually no limit on how many libraries you can create here. So go ahead and get things decided for yourself of, do you want to have one library per project, one library per client, one library per sub project or whatever works best for you, right? But I'm going to show you the workflow here. So let's say I'm working for this event, so I'm going to name it as event XYZ, or could be anything for that matter. And this is my library name, and I'm going to click on create here. Now, one thing you will see the moment you create a new library, it says start building a library, and it's absolutely blank, which is what you can expect, right? Now, you can do tons of things here, right? You can add so many different types of assets that are relevant to your project so that you can reuse them again and again without being confused. What exactly was that color that you were supposed to use? What exactly was that character style or paragraph style or whatever, right? So how do you add assets into the library, you might ask? So there are multiple things that you can do here. You can add different type of assets. So for example, maybe let me just zoom in a little bit and show you this. So maybe what you want to do is you want to start adding this image that you see here, right? So how do you do that? I'm going to double click. You'll see that on the right hand side in the layers panel, I have a smart object, and I can double click, and then I can double click again to be able to get access to the image layer itself, right? And then the moment I'm in the layer that I need to be able to access for adding it to my libraries, I see that there is a plus button right at the bottom of the libraries panel. So I click on that plus button, and it says there are a couple of things that I can do here. I can add, now depending on what you've selected, you're going to see different options here. Because I'm working on an image or a graphic, it says you have an option to add a graphic. So I'll click on that, and you'll see that graphic layer has been added, right? So let's close this. Let's close this. Similar to that, I see there is another image. I can click here. You see at the bottom, this is a smart object, right? I'll talk about smart object in a different video in case you're not aware of that. But just in short, smart objects are the way for you to do work non-destructively, right? It's like a container that helps you protect the pixels in that container. But let's not go off the topic, but I can double click here. I can get access to the exact file or the image that I want to get access to, right? This is that image. I click here, I click on the image, go back to the plus button in the libraries panel, and then I see the option for adding a graphic again, right? Now, another thing that I want you to do when you're building up your library like this, just double click on the name and make sure that you're giving it a relevant name, because it's going to be very easy for you to find that right asset in no time when you build up your library with tons and tons of assets. So for example, maybe you can name your assets depending on what they are and how you can recall them. So I'll just say, this is artwork girl. And then I can say this is artwork, would be anything, circle, for example. Oops, if I can spell it right, circle, right? So right now I've just added images. I can do other things as well. Let's just go back to our original document. For example, what I can do here, I can select this word, your event. And when I've selected that, if I click on the plus button, you see it says, I recognize the text color. Do you want to add the text color as a color? Maybe I want to reuse it and make sure I want to make sure that I'm using the exact color, right? I can do that. Or I click on the plus button, I say, you know what, I want to add this character style so that I can use it again and again, right? So I can do that. And then I can reuse that character style again and again. In the similar fashion, maybe I'm interested in the, let's just scroll up. Let's just talk about, let's see what else is happening here. Right? So maybe what I'm interested in is the fill color, right? So maybe this is a fill color that's supposed to go into the footer of all the documents. And I want to make sure that I'm using the exact color without remembering the hex code. I select that box, I go into I click on the plus button again here, and I select fill color. How does it know fill color now? Because it knows that I'm working with color and I've clicked on that box and it knows what exactly that I'm looking for to be added. And that's how I can slowly and gradually start building up my library using the click and add method, right? You might be thinking that it will take a lot of time to be able to do that, and there's an easier way for me to add all the colors, all the images, all the character styles, everything on this document without doing this method one by one. So the short answer is yes, you can do that. And let me show you the magic here. So how you would do that, you will have that document open, and then you're going to click on the panel menu for the libraries panel. You see, this is the libraries panel, and you see it with every panel, there's always this hamburger menu or the panel menu on the right-hand side of that panel, right? You need to make sure that the library panel is activated before you click on the hamburger menu here, okay? So because the libraries menu panel is activated, I click on the hamburger menu, and then I say, create new library from document. So basically I'm saying, Photoshop, have a look at the document open, and can you create a new library for me with all the assets that I have on this document? And that's going to expedite your process of adding these assets in one single click. Now it says, I recognize there are 8 character styles, 6 colors, 2 smart objects with images, and that's all I can see here. Do you want me to create a new library? Yes, I will click on create new library. And in no time, it created a new library with the name of the document, which is event flyer, right? That's the name of the document. But what else it did, it added all the colors from the document. It added all the character styles, right? It added all the images and graphics, or I would say the smart object itself, into the libraries panel for me, right? So that made my work much, much easier. Now, the question is, okay, I've created a new library. I've added all the assets that I wanted to add, but what does that do for me? How does that help me? Why should I do it in the first place? Now, let's just say you're working on something else, right? Let's just say I'm going to create a new document for that matter. And I'm going to say I'm working on the same project, but it's event number 2, or maybe I'm working on a mobile flyer, and I need to make sure that I'm still being on brand, still using the same colors that I'm supposed to use, and the character styles and the images and whatnot, right? So I've used a text tool, and I've just created a text here. I can say anything. Maybe let's just say event heading. I know you can't see it because it's in white color. So I'm going to just click here, change it to some random color so that you can see it. And then this is a text for that matter, right? Now, how do I make sure quickly in no time that maybe the color matches to your event here, or the character style matches, or it basically looks the same, right? So what I can do here with this text selected, I can choose any of the colors that I want to from the right-hand side in my libraries panel, right? For example, maybe this was supposed to be the blue color heading. I just click on this blue color in the libraries, and it changes the color to blue. In the same manner, I can click on any of these character styles that I've saved from my previous document, and the look and feel of the text changes in no time, right? You can see that, and I can change the color as well. Okay, so I don't really have to remember what was the exact settings. Was it 8 points in the size? What was the font? What was and you get the idea, right? So it can be done with one single click. In the similar fashion, I don't have to worry about what was the exact logo or image that I was supposed to use. I can simply drag and drop that image from my libraries panel onto the canvas, and I can start creating stuff. Same is the case with the other image as well, right? And you see the things are much, much easier. I have access to all the assets that I need for this project inside my Photoshop app where I need it exactly, right? So that's the power of libraries. Right now, I've just kind of shown you the power on a smaller scale, but you can imagine if you're working with thousands and thousands of projects with so many assets, it's going to make your life much, much easier and much more organized, right? The second thing that you can already imagine, the kind of things that you can save in the libraries panel, it's difficult to save it on a hard drive. I'm not talking about images or video because I mean you can save them on hard drive and save them on shared drive or even on network folders and share with your team members. But I'm talking about other things. So let me quickly take a step back and show you one of the demo libraries that I've created to show you the real power or the kind of assets that you can save in a library panel, right? So you can see here, let me make things bigger. So you can see here the kind of assets that I can save. You can save colors, color themes, gradients, different character styles, layer styles, brushes, graphic images, JPEG images, artworks, PNGs, those kind of stuff. And then you can save patterns, looks, and you can save other things as well, which basically Photoshop doesn't recognize, but it is smart enough to know that these things are grayed out or kind of minimized because Photoshop isn't supposed to use them. So you use them in other Adobe products. Maybe, for example, you're working on Premiere Pro, you will be using video. Or if you're working in Audition, you'll be using audio. Or if you're working in InDesign, you will be using paragraph styles, for example, right? So it's kind of smart to know that because you're working in Photoshop, it should hide those asset types that you're not going to work in this project or in this application, right? But you see the kind of things that you can save here, right? So the power is immense there. Okay, now coming back to our project that or our library that we created before. Now, where are we? We are at the step where you created a library from scratch or from the existing document. You have your assets added, all the colors, layer styles, library, paragraph styles, whatever you wanted to add, you have that in that library panel. And now you also have seen the power of how you can reuse those assets again. And it's going to kind of speed up your process of creating stuff because you don't really need to know what was the exact hex code of the color or what was the character stuff. You get the idea. But where do I go from here? What else can I do with the library? How else can this help me from here? The second power or the second reason of why you should worry about creating a library panel is collaboration, is working with your peers, with your clients, with your vendors, team members, other companies, and so on and so forth. Where does that power comes from? That power comes from the sharing capability. You see, there is this invite to library button on the right-hand side, on the top right-hand side, where you see that human figure with a plus button. So you click on that, and it quickly jumps over to your Creative Cloud desktop application, and it says, whom do you want to invite to this library? That's what it says, right? And now you can start typing the email address, copy and paste email addresses, or start typing the name of the people if they're in the same company. Totally up to you. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to type in a dummy email that I normally use. Okay, so that's my first email, and now I can like put a exclamation mark. I can put another email. I can put another exclamation mark, and then put third email, for example, right? And I can go on and on and on, and I can have multiple people added here in my invite section. There's a optional message button or box. I can say anything to these people so that they know what's coming their way. Let us collaborate and work on this event project through this library whatever, right? You can write a message so that they know what's coming their way and how they can use this library. Now, the second thing that you can get to decide here is whether these people that you're inviting, should they have a view and use only access, which means that they would be able to add it to their libraries panel, and they would be able to see the same set of things that you're seeing in your library, and they would be able to use those assets as well, but they won't have edit rights, which means they won't be able to add anything, they won't be able to delete anything, modify, update, nothing at all, right? They would just be able to view and use it. The second option is edit, of course. This is the power for them to be able to add assets, remove assets, update, make changes to the existing assets. So depending on whom you're asking to collaborate, if they should be the collaborator in terms of contribution, or they should only be collaborator in terms of using the assets. So you have the power to decide that, right? So I'll say, I don't trust these guys and they should only be able to view and use it. So I'll say can view, right? And then I hit the invite button. What does that do? It sends an email to both of these people, or all the people that you add here. And the moment they receive the email, they accept the invite, the library panel will magically appear in their libraries panel as well, the same library, right? So similar to how you see this event flyer library in your libraries panel, they will also start seeing this in their libraries panel. And the moment you click on it, the way you see all the assets, they will also start seeing the same set of assets, similar to what you see on the screen for them as well, right? So that's really great, because now they also don't have to worry about what was the latest approved version of this the circle artwork, or this artwork, or whether or not they're using the latest and greatest version of that approved asset, because they will always have access to the latest version through the libraries panel, right? Now they can use those colors, they can use the character styles. Right now you can see only a couple of options, but imagine if you have a library like this, they can use all the power of the assets that you've added, which they're supposed to use, and they will be on the brand. They will be able to create stuff by using their creativity, but also making sure that they're not going off the brand, right? Using the right colors, right text, and things like that. So that's another benefit of using libraries panel. You can share it with your team members so that they can also do things. Now, it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be people who are using Photoshop itself, right? Just imagine maybe this is a team who's working on the video stuff, right? They're using Premiere Pro, After Effects, and things like that. They can still use this library, and they should use this library, because they should be using the same set of colors, same set of assets in their video as well. And as a matter of fact, when they accept this invitation, and when they open their Premiere Pro, for example, they would be able to see the same library in their libraries panel in Premiere Pro as well, right? So that being said, now you know what are the reasons of why you should use library, and why you should even consider doing that in the first place. But let's just talk about a couple of other good perks, or a couple of best practices of how you should be doing this, right? So, like I said, in terms of the best practice, the first thing that you should always do is make sure that you're naming your assets right, so that it's easy for you to find it back again, right? So in the previous example where I created the event XYZ, you remember I gave the names here. So now the benefit of doing this, if I need to search for it quickly, just imagine I have maybe 1,000 images here, right? I can go to the search current library box, and I can type in any other word that I remember from that name, and the relevant results will pop up. That really speeds up the process of getting to the right asset quickly. There are other things that you can do here as well. Now let me go to a bigger library to be able to show that. So this is the demo library I was talking about, right? I can do searches. I'm searching for cloud. I can see cloud as a result. How do I see that? Because I've given the relevant name to all these assets. But The other thing that I want to talk about is that right now you see the grouping is done by the asset type, which means that all the colors are together, all the color themes are together, gradients are together, character styles are together. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong about it. Maybe that's the way you want it to be. That's fine. Then you can leave it as it is. But maybe there are chances where you don't want to club them by asset type. You want to see them as a group of folders depending on your needs, right? So similar to how you can create folders and subfolders on your hard drive, maybe that's the kind of organization you want in the library panel. So how can you do that? You can do that by changing the view from group by type. And how did I do that? You just click on this button, the second button with the 3 lines and arrow pointing downwards. You click on that and you say, you know what? I don't want to group this by type anymore. I want to group this by custom grouping. I want to create my own groups. I want to create my own folder structure here, right? So you do that. And right now, I have already kind of created a few groups. You can see I've created a group for footer. I can change it in the, I can actually change the view from list view to thumbnail view. But you can see I've created one footer for group for footer, one for heading page, and then there are some of the stuff which haven't been grouped yet. So how can you create groups? When you are in this view of viewing your stuff through custom group, you will see something called as a folder, like a new group button at the bottom of the screen of the libraries. So click on that. It's going to let you create another group, name it anything. Maybe let's just say you're working on one project, one library, but you want to create subgroups for those sub projects. Maybe there's one project for, I don't know, for websites, one project for the mobile app, one project for the videos, for example. Like you want to create subgroups for those sub projects. You don't want to create a new library altogether, right? And you want to see those relevant assets in that folder inside one single library. So I'm going to call it, let's say, this is the mobile app sub project. And that's my new folder that I've just created. And I can start dragging and dropping stuff into that sub project. Maybe these 2 colors belong to this sub project. Maybe this image, this image belongs to this. Maybe, I don't know, this gradient is supposed to be a part of the sub project as well. And you get the idea, right? Now you don't have to see all the asset types sticking together. You can create your own subgroups, subfolders inside the library itself, right? So that's how you do it. What else? Okay, so you've seen how you can create different libraries, how you can create libraries from scratch, you can create libraries from an existing document, how you can share and collaborate with your folks, with your people, so that they can be on brand as well. There's one more use case or one more thing that you can do with the libraries, and one more reason for you to consider using it is the fact that you can share a library as a public link to anyone who doesn't have access to Adobe license, who doesn't have access to Adobe Creative Cloud. So what could be a use case? Maybe, you're working with this, you're working on this project for your client, but your client doesn't really know how to use Photoshop, or they don't have access to Photoshop, or they cannot really add a library in their Photoshop because they don't have Photoshop at all, right? So how can you show them what are the assets that you're working on so that they can tell you whether you're working on right things or not? You can use the same library, right? And I can take an example of any library. I can take an example of this library as well, the demo one. But what you can do here, click on the panel menu, right? Don't click on the invite button, because it's going to invite people who is going to collaborate with you, right? So don't do that. click on the panel menu, which is the hamburger menu on the right-hand side. And you see there are two options. One says invite people. Invite people is same as clicking on this human figure and the plus button. But what you want to do is you don't want to click on invite people. You want to click on the hamburger menu and then click on get link, right? And the moment you do that, what it does, it lets you copy that public link, which gives anybody who will have access to this link, they would be able to view all the assets in their browser without access to Adobe license, right? How cool is that? So you see this link is ready. I can click on copy link, and what I can do here, I can just go into an incognito mode. You see this is a private browser enabled so that I'm not logged in, and then I'm going to paste that link here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wait for and you see I'm not logged in because this is a private mode of the browser. And all the assets that I could see in the library panel in my Photoshop start to appear on a web browser without any sign in. You see, I'm not signed in on the right-hand side, right? So imagine you've sent it to your client and now he can see, okay. And then of course you have to name them correctly so that he can make a sense out of it, right? So maybe, you know, this is the character style for the heading, right? So he can click on it, he can literally see what is it that you're using in that character style, right? So you're using the font family Times New Roman. This is the size of the font. This is the color that you're using, and he can say, yeah, that's right, that's wrong, whatever, right? He can give you the feedback, or he can just scroll down and see different colors. Of course, right now they're named as hex codes, and that doesn't really make sense, but what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to rename them and give them relevant names. For example, this red color is the color for the logo. This red color is the color for footer, right? So you give them relevant names so that not only the person who's going to view it on the browser, but you yourself can make sense out of it and reuse at the right time, right? Because you don't really need to see the hex code. That's the beauty of using library. You just need to click and use it, right? Similar to how you see here. So maybe this is the button fill color, right? So every time you create a button, you're supposed to use this fill color to stay on brand. So now that person can click on that and he can see what's the hex code, what's the RGB details. He can see everything here, right? And then you can also put some little description, use it only, for the buttons on home pages, for example. You can do that in your libraries, right? And I can scroll down, I can see different images, different kind of assets. I can even see videos, Photoshop assets here, right? I can see all that stuff inside my browser, even when I'm not logged in, even if I don't have access to the Adobe license. Okay. So that kind of wraps up. Before I kind of close this video, I want to show you one more thing. Not only you can access your libraries through the Adobe application, but you can also access it on the browser. So what you do is you go to assets.adobe.com, okay? Assets.adobe.com, hit enter, make sure you're logged in with your email address and password, and then you will see your files come up. You will see your apps, files, learn. Make sure you're on the files section. And then you see on the left-hand side, there's an option for your libraries. So you click on your libraries, and now you would be able to access all of your libraries on the browser. What's the point? Maybe you're out and about, you don't have access to Photoshop. You need to see some of the asset, or maybe you need to share that library with someone else quickly. You don't have to install Photoshop or anything like that. You can just go to assets.adobe.com, go to the libraries, open the library that you want to share or see or whatever you want to do. Click on the share button, right? Get link, copy that link and send it to anybody that you want to send it to, right? So this web browser is really powerful. The browser access is really powerful, right? So that kind of wraps up the video for today. Hopefully you have got the idea of why you should even worry about creating a library. in the first place, and how this increases your productivity and the power of being brand and collaborate with others, even when you're working remotely. So that's all for now. Please subscribe to this channel, and because we're going to put a video every single week, and the focus of the videos is going to make sure that you're being successful with your creative solutions, and we're able to help you achieve that with little efforts. Okay.